So you worked on different kind of 5 process. As you can see, there are 4 connection and 2 problem solving, 3 representation, 1 reasoning and proof, right? So based on the 4 process, I'm going to review the all of the content maybe the next week. So anyway, I'm going to take a look at carefully. So all of your example, and then we are going to have some discussion time about the problem you develop for each 4 category, I think. So group 1, so can you tell me once again which topic did you select? I just want to check the repetitiveness. So group 1, what is the topic? The mathematical topic. Linear equation and matrix. What about group 1? Differentiation, right? 미분. And group 2, linear equation and matrix. What about group 3? Okay, sequence. What about group 4? Quadratic formula? Oh, no. Quadratic curve, right? So what about group 5? 미분. Okay. Then group 1 and 5 looks they are going to be overlap each other. But anyway, it's okay because I'm going to compare. What about group 6? 2차 곡선, okay. Group 6. 정적분, okay. Group 7. 2차 곡선, okay. 2 overlap. Group 8. 함수의 극한, okay. Group 9. log. Group 10. Group 10. 유라야, 너 최유라, what topic? I'm going to deduct many points then, because you didn't follow the direction in the homework assignment. I did clarify enough, right? So you should select one topic and then you're supposed to analyze textbook. I emphasized many times, but you didn't follow the direction. So take a look at why I emphasize you need to only one topic, one mathematical topic for the first homework assignment. Basically, in order to develop the assessment item, at the beginning stage, I want to emphasize 2 important perspectives you should consider in order to develop assessment item. So as you can see, different mathematical activity you should categorize based on your understanding of mathematical process. Before moving forward in terms of developing assessment item, you should consider different conceptual structure as well. So let me explain first different mathematical activity and this Thursday, I'm going to explain different conceptual structures. This Thursday, I'm going to assign the second miscellaneous item, which you should draw conceptual mapping based on the topic you selected. So the group 10, your group need to select only one topic, okay? Otherwise, you cannot draw conceptual mapping. That's why I emphasize in the first assignment, right? You should select only one topic instead of combining different kind of topic together. So anyway, so basically based on the first miscellaneous item, from my perspective, you experience, right? What kind of activity you can evaluate by using assessment item based on the 5 process, whether you selected connection, right? Problem solving, reasoning and proof, representation. Anyway, after looking at each one of 5 process, you analyze some item. But that's just beginning stage. You also need to think about from a big picture, right? In order to develop any assessment item. That's why, but it's really difficult, developing assessment item without understanding of a big picture in the topic. That's why I'm going to explain 2 different things. But still, NCTM standard, assessment standard, is still abstract, probably, right, to you. That's why I'm going to explain more precisely by using TIMSS conceptual framework. According to the TIMSS, as I said, TIMSS denote trends in international mathematics and science study. They categorize content first, number, algebra, measurement, geometry, data, and then they also consider cognitive domain. I'm sorry about that. I had to change the color. No. This is cognitive domain. In other words, this is going to be related to 5 process. Okay, take a look at. So what kind of question you may ask in order to evaluate different kind of 5 process, even though TIMSS study include different approach in terms of 5 process, but you still compare NCTM standards with TIMSS conceptual framework. And then I'm going to ask you at the end of class, what about the connection? What about the representation? What about the communication can be included in the TIMSS structures? And then we can compare and then we can discuss together, okay? But one of the advantages in terms of using TIMSS conceptual framework is to see what kind of question you can ask directly to evaluate mathematical process. Okay, that's why I'm showing you TIMSS conceptual framework. For instance, one of the questions they used in the TIMSS study, knowing fact and procedure. This is first cognitive domain. In this category, they include this kind of question. First of all, recall definition, property, and convention. For instance, in the middle school, they can ask a plus a equal to 3a, and a times a times a times equals a cube. Just recall definition, property, and mathematical convention. They want to check, right? It is part of what? Communication, right? According to the NCTM standard, right? Because they need to develop what? Their own mathematical symbol, as well as student need to follow. In addition, student need to follow mathematical convention, right? Anyway, think about this one. Also, they included recognizing, identifying mathematical entity that are mathematical equivalent is another example of knowing fact and procedure. For instance, they provide simplified algebraic expression, differentially oriented symbol geometric figures. You practice, right? In the middle school, just the simplification, how to simplify algebraic, expression, right? That is one of things, and compute algorithmic procedure. For instance, simplify factoring and expand algebraic expression. You often see, this kind of problem set in the middle school. Also use tools such as mathematics and measuring instruments. For instance, drawing construction problem or reading scale. Can you see what kind of component in the category of knowing fact and procedure? Basically, some basic fact as well as some mathematical procedure you're supposed to understand from this category. Some of the problem related to this category you can expect, right, from this example. Also, they kind of differentiate using concept compared to knowing procedure, right? Do you understand why they differentiate, right? Conceptual understanding probably different from, right, just the procedural knowledge, right? That's why they differentiate using concept category from the first category. So knowing concepts such as inclusion, representation, and proof is one of the category using concept. For instance, they provide this kind of example. Can you read by yourself first? Know that if 5 successive tosses of a fair coin come up heads, the outcome of the next toss is as likely to be tails as head. Anyway, so they provide this kind of example. You can think of this kind of concept. Also, they included this kind of example: classify group object shape, number, expression, idea according to common property. For instance, group pairs of quantity, length, weight, cost, etc., in which the first quantity is greater than the second quantity. Basically, in these two examples, you can see, according to the team's conceptual framework, they differentiate what? Knowing something is different from what? Classifying, right? Can you see the different activity, right? Different process, right? Just simply knowing a concept probably different from what? Classifying, right? So classifying a concept or classifying mathematical object, another important example of using concept according to the team's study. What about represent numbers or mathematical information using model? For instance, given a function rule, what about ordered fair, right? As you can see, using concept include what? Part of representation process in NCTM standard, right? Can you see that? So representation, right, was separated from other 4 process, right, in the NCTM standard. But here, representation is a part of what? Using concept. You can think about that issue, how to categorize, right? Also formulate problem or situation by equation or expression. This is also part of representation, right? In terms of NCTM standard. But still, this is part of using concept in the team's study. So in the team study, as you can see, you can think of in different kind of question, right? Possible in terms of developing assessment item. First one, knowing fact, right? Knowing concept. Second one, classify. Third one, represent, right? First one, formulate. And you think about, different kind of approach to the, mathematical process. For instance, they provide this kind of example in order to represent 4x plus 3 equal to 51. 4 boxes are filled with golf balls, and 3 golf balls are left over. If there are 51 balls altogether, how many does each box hold? And you think about, the red color expression. Also, they add distinguish question that can be addressed by given information from those that cannot. Probably you may not see this kind of example before, but this is one of the interesting, I think, example from my perspective anyway, in the category of using concept. Take a look at, for instance, probably in developing assessment item, you have focused on only problem-solving issue, right? Just for a given problem, students are supposed to solve that problem. But just think differently, opposite way. Probably this is a good example in terms of opposite direction. For instance, take a look at the weight of boys in a class are 1,800 kilograms. Answer to which of the following question can be found? Just for a given information, right? You may ask, what kind of question can be answered? What kind of question cannot be answered, right? That's a different approach, right? Instead of just asking, what is the answer? You just approach differently, right? For a given information, what kind of question can be answered? What kind of question cannot be answered, right? That's a totally different, thinking process, right? So for a given information, you may ask, what is the average weight of boy in the class? That can be answered for a given information. What about on average, the boy in the class weigh more than girls in the class? This question can be answered for a given this information. What about how many boys weigh more than 70 kilograms? This kind of question can be answered. What about what is the grade level of the class? Even though I just provide simple example for your better understanding of this category, well, you can think about this issue in depth, right? In terms of developing assessment item. This is totally different approach, as you can see, right? Just the student need to develop one different thinking process, right? Not just a routine problem. This is obviously what? Non-routine problem, as you can see, right? In the third category, they solving routine problem. But I think, problem solving with a routine problem, another important skill, right? Students are supposed to develop. That's why, according to the, team's conceptual framework, they categorize this one. So select an efficient method or strategy. For instance, given a problem that can be modeled by a simple equation, select the appropriate equation, right? This kind of problems that you already saw many times, right? In the middle school or in high school. Also model an equation or diagram for problem solving. Also interpret a given mathematical model. Given a set of expression, which one can be the diagram be used to show, right? Probably these three categories you already saw many times, right? In the middle school textbook or in the probably high school textbook. One of the simple examples, for instance, given linear equation, right? Which graph represent the linear equation correctly, right? That problem should be one good example for this category. What about this one? Apply knowledge of fact, procedure, and concept to solve routine, including real-life problems. Problems similar to those target students are likely to have encountered in class. So basically, application, right, can be categorized what? In solving routine problem. What do you think? Maybe some of you may not, right, agree with that, right? Probably, especially including real-life problem. Real-life problem can be non-routine problem, but still you can think of, they included in the category of solving routine problems. Anyway, one of the important things, after looking at the team's conceptual framework, or whether the framework fit for your ideas or not, it does not matter, right? From observing all this kind of example, you need to develop what kind of question possibly ask in order to evaluate a different kind of mathematical process. That's going to be an important issue to you, okay? Because in order to develop, as a result, right, assessment item. That's why I'm showing you different kind of approaches to the same category. Also, verify, check correctness or reasonableness of the solution to a problem. For instance, even though you may not see this kind of question, but you can apply this kind of skill in terms of developing your own assessment item. For a given information, instead of just solving the problem, you can show solution to that problem, and then you can ask whether he is correct or he's not, right? Incorrect. And then or you may ask what kind of process is going on here. For instance, in this problem, Jack wants to find how far an airplane will travel in 3.5 hours at its top speed of 965 kilometers per hour. He used his calculator to multiply 3.5 by 965 and tells his friend Jenny that the answer is 33,775 kilometers. Jenny said, that can be right. How does she know? Anyway, after showing some reasoning process, right, you may ask, right, different kind of question. Just, finding answer is just a specific way of thinking process, right? Instead of following just one specific, thinking process, you may want your student to develop different kind of, thinking process, right? That's why you need to think about, this kind of, different approach. Verify, check the correctness or reasonableness. So what is the assessment then? Before explaining the final category in the team study. Can you read? In your class, you may teach this kind of content, right? Very simple, very obvious. Students can easily understand what is going on in class. But while taking midterm or final exam, all of a sudden, student can see in the test this kind of problem. This is just, for fun, but think about the important issue in the assessment you are going to develop, right? So what is the purpose of the assessment? So what kind of question you need to ask after finishing each class or after finishing each semester, and at the end of semester, what kind of question you should ask? Think about this issue, right? In Korea, we made some perspective like, if I'm going to develop and make some difficult problem in the assessment, right? I may have more ability, right, to teach mathematics. So think about, what is the purpose of the assessment? So what kind of problem should be asked in the assessment for students? Student better understanding? Well, you want to provide, more challenging problem to student because you have an ability to teach more difficult mathematical concept, right? It's not going to be like that in terms of especially the purpose of doing assessment in class or at the end of class. And you think about this issue, what is assessment? Ask yourself the question, what is assessment to you? What is the purpose of assessment? So what kind of problem you should ask each class or at the end of class or at the end of semester even. Anyway, it's fun for you to watch, right? This kind of example. The last category teams provide in their conceptual framework of the assessment. According to the NCTM standard, right, they categorize reasoning and proof, right? Most of the items are going to be related to reasoning and proof. But take a look at more carefully, make a conjecture while investigating pattern, right? This is obviously, reasoning part, right? For instance, this kind of, twin prime problem. This is part of number theory, right? Two prime are prime number with one other number between them. Thus 5, 7, 11, 13, 7, and 19 are pair of twin prime. Make a conjecture about the numbers between twin problem. If you took number theory course, you may solve this problem, right? Anyway, this is a conjecture process. What about to analyze the relationship between variable, object, or data and make valid inferences? Also, they include evaluate a mathematical idea, conjecture, proof, etc. Examples, comment on a survey with obvious flaw to small sample, non-representative sample, like that. As I said, one of the good assessment items in this category, for instance, you can show 2 or 3 different kind of problem-solving process, right? And then you may ask your students, what kind of advantage if you're going to select one of them. What about the disadvantage if you're going to select the other 2, right? You may discuss, right? Also, you may ask any question, it can be generalizable, right? Generalizability, another important issue, right? In terms of a mathematical idea or proof or justification. And you think about conjecturing, analyzing, and evaluating. It's a kind of different process, right? Make sense to you? Generalize the result of mathematical thinking, as I said. For instance, given the sum of the angles of a triangle is 2 right angles, and given diagram of 4, 5, 6-sided polygon divided into triangles, describe the relationship between the number of sides of any polygon and the sum of its angle in right angles. This is one of the good example generalization issue. Also, connect new knowledge to existing one. Make connection between different elements of knowledge and related representation. Make linkages between related mathematical ideas or objects. Do you understand, right? But what about the reasoning part? According to the team's conceptual framework, reasoning can include what? Connection as well, right? So part of a connection, as you can see. So think about the 5 processes, right? Problem solving, reasoning and proof, communication, connection and representation, right? But connection representation can be included using concept or reasoning part in terms of team's category. So anyway, you can structuralize what kind of mathematical process should be considered and should be included in the assessment item, right? You may develop different structure, but you may think of a lot of different kind of mathematical process, as you can see, in order to evaluate student understanding of mathematical concept efficiently. Also, a synthesized procedure to establish results. For instance, combine results obtained from 2 distinctive graphs to solve a problem. Obviously, synthesizing is another important skill, right? In the category, according to the team's study, it is part of reasoning, as you can see. Here, they provide a solve non-routine problem in mathematical or real-life context. Anyway, so even though there is no clear cut between routine and non-routine problem, probably, right? Because it's really depending on student as well as the context. But still, they differentiate. Probably routine problem can be seen in the textbook or in some problem set. However, non-routine problem cannot be seen, right, in the textbook or in any other sources. That's going to be one simple differentiation between routine and non-routine problems. For instance, they provide given data and condition in advertisement for competing products. Select relevant data and find ways to make comparison value in determining which product is most suitable in a particular context. And finally, justify and prove statement. This is the last stage, right? Students are supposed to develop in their reasoning. Any question until now? So what kind of 4 categories did you see according to the team's study? So what did you feel? What is the first one? According to teams. You already forgot? What is the first category? Today is 21. 23rd. 송화성? 화성이가 23rd네 보니까. What is the first category? You forgot? Anyway, something related to procedure, right? Can you remember now? Second one is concept. First one is procedure. Take a look at once again. Knowing fact and procedure, right? A fact and procedure. What about second one? Using concept. And third one, solving routine problem. And fourth one, reasoning. Reasoning include what? Solving non-routine problem. Anyway, they categorize 4 different kind of conceptual framework in order to develop assessment item in the team's study. But this kind of conceptual framework is so important Why this kind of conceptual framework is so important, do you think, in terms of analyzing five process or any mathematical processes? Why do you think so? 김진건? Why do you think that's important? Why team study develop this kind of category, do you think, from your perspective? I just explained, right, all four components, right, by using some concrete examples. I think, as you pointed out, probably if you're going to consider mathematical thinking process, right, there are different kind of thinking process. But one of the important issue, how to include all of the process students are going to experience in school mathematics, right? That's why conceptual framework important. Otherwise, for instance, if you're going to prepare reasoning parts, you may ask all the questions in the midterm and in the final exam reasoning problem. That's going to be fair in terms of mathematical process. I don't think that's fair in terms of assessment item. That's why you need to develop conceptual framework in order to differentiate and distribute all of the problem probably evenly. But evenly is not important issue, right? From time to time, you can emphasize reasoning, right? Because from your perspective, reasoning is the most important process compared to the other three. However, you cannot make all assessment items in this category. I think that's going to be problematic from my perspective. I want to emphasize that point. Okay? That's why conceptual framework so important. After developing 20 problems, for instance, 1, 5, right? 2, 7, right? Or 7, 11, 13, 14, and this one is the other problem, right? Then you can see, oh, I'm evaluating, right? Student mathematical thinking process, right? Efficiently as well as effectively, right? Because I'm evaluating 4 components. From your perspective, right? These 4 components are so important in terms of developing mathematical thinking. Make sense to you? Also, NCTM standard, right? You also saw 5 process, right? So if you want to emphasize all process, you may develop this kind of structure, and then what kind of problem I'm asking? You should ask yourself, right, after developing assessment item. That's why this is conceptual framework is going to be starting point. Make sense to you? Why conceptual framework is so important before developing any assessment item? Any question? Let me explain midterm exam. October 21st, we are going to have the midterm exam. Please study all content in the middle school constructive response assessment data developed by City of Seoul and Gyeonggi-do. Also, you need to please study all content in the high school constructive response assessment data developed by City of Seoul and Gyeonggi-do. I already uploaded on the website. I'm going to show you if you didn't see it. If you are going to go to EKU website, you can access by yourself. You do know how to access EKU website, right? As you can see, if you are going to click the EKU website, I already enrolled miscellaneous item. You already saw probably like that. As you can see, 서울시 중학교 서술형 평가 자료집, 서울시 고등학교 서술형 평가 자료집, 경기도 중학교 서술형 평가 자료집, 경기도 고등학교 서술형 평가 자료집. If you're going to click the file, as you can see PDF or Word file like that. 수학과 서술형 평가 문항 자료집 중학교용. After explaining some conceptual framework, 서술형 평가의 중요성, 채점 방법, 출제 원리, 개발 절차, and then they provide this kind of example. 서술형 평가 출제 및 채점 예시 1학년, 2학년, first, second, third grade in the middle school. If you're going to go to see it, as you can see, I'm going to skip the, just the explanation. If you do have time, please read carefully, even though it's not going to be related to your midterm exam. Right here, as you can see here, you may see it. The 7th grader mathematics, they categorize set and natural number, and here intersection, union. Anyway, so you can see this kind of problem, right? 서술형 평가, constructive response problem, and answer, and 채점 기준표, right? How to evaluate. Also this kind of problem. Anyway, all of this problem related to middle school, the 7th grader, the first grade of middle school. You're supposed to solve all these problems because this is the middle school, high school problem. You should understand all the content. Basically, in the midterm exam, I'm going to select maybe several problems out of this set. I'm going to make a similar problem. Probably I'm going to change it just a number or some content. And then I'm going to make them the midterm exam. Probably about approximately 20 to 25 problems in the midterm exam for actually, let's say 60, 70, approximately 80 minutes for midterm exam, okay? So I'm going to provide 20 to 25 problems, depending on what kind of problem I'm going to select. I'm going to carefully look at the timing issue as well. Any question regarding the midterm exam? Also, you can select other item as well. Right here, 서울시 고등학교 and 경기도 중학교. A little different though, but you can see the same format though. Even though it's a Word file, by the way, it's not PDF in 경기도. As you can see, if you're going to open the file, you can see a different kind of problem set. Like that. like that. As you can see, the same format, but almost a similar format, but they develop their own format like that. For a given problem, they also provide some solution as well. As you can see. Do you understand what is going on, right? In the midterm exam, in the middle of October, right? October 21st. Any question regarding the midterm exam? Yes. Yeah, yeah. If you're not going to understand all the content in middle school and high school, right? How can you make the problem? That's why, but one of the important issue in terms of developing mathematical essay problem, you should understand all different kind of constructive response problem. In other words, 서술형 평가. 서술형 평가가 many developed, right? Many different kind of problems that already developed, right? But as a pre-service teacher, in order to develop any mathematical essay problem, you should understand what kind of constructive responsive problem develop. That's why, but without understanding of them, so you may not develop mathematical essay problem correctly. Because you can specify or focus on specific problem, but as a pre-service teacher, that's not enough. You should understand all the content first. What kind of problem set are going on. So basically, if you're going to be a good teacher, one of the good requirements from my perspective, also some other perspective, many other perspective, you should solve all the problem in the middle school, in the high school. Anyway, that's my assumption. That's why I'm emphasizing before developing any assessment item, first of all, you should solve by yourself. All middle school or high school problem, not just multiple choice problem. That's why I selected only constructive response problem in Korean 서술형 평가, right? But this is the not just any problem set. This is the city of Seoul and Gyeonggi-do, they develop carefully. But this is a good example in terms of 서술형 평가. That's why I think you should understand first of all middle school, in the high school mathematics, what kind of constructive response problem are possible and can be developed. This is also developed, many teachers, high school and middle school teachers, they get together and they develop this kind of problem, not just only one person. A group of people get together and they develop this problem set. That's why I think it's valuable for you to solve all these problems. Make sense to you? Also, if you take the course, Creative Character Education, did you take that course? So, what did you learn from the Seungbom's lecture? Before he is going to be a good teacher, right? Good lecturer, he solved all those problems which was developed in Korea. As far as I know, he solved all problems. And then he can see how to teach students. And that's the similar perspective from mine. So if you're going to solve, if you're going to understand all those problems related to that, you may develop better problems. So that's why your own problem solving based on as much as you can, many content. I think that's going to be important. Any other question? if you have time, probably you may solve mathematical essay problem which were developed by other university or other institution. That might be helpful. In other mathematical essay class, they focused only problem solving. Do you know that? But that's not going to be, good enough for pre-subs teacher, because you are not going to take the, mathematical essay exam, right? You are going to teach mathematical essay problem to students. That's why I think we need to develop different perspective in the course, not just only problem solving. But problem solving is an important part of, mathematical essay course. Any other question? Any other question? Then I'm going to hear from each group. Even though I'm going to analyze next time. Group 1. So why did you select connection out of 5 process? 성민, 기환, 황지연. I just want to hear your opinion. Why did you select connection? Group 1. Anyone in group 1? Group 1 손 들어보세요. Why did you select connection? Just for convenience?
이분이 여러 수학적 다른 단원과 연계된 문제들이 많을 거라 생각돼서 여러 단원과 그런 연계된 문제를 찾아보고 확인해 택하고 커넥션을 같이.
둘에 group 2. Why did you select connection as well?
수학 교육을 통해서 학생들한테 바라는 점이 대상에서 수학적인 지식을 찾아내고 논리적인 과정을 통해서 모델링을 하는 게 그 목적이라고 저는 생각을 하는데, 한 가지 과목, 한 가지 토픽으로만은 그런 과정을 완벽하게 그런 과정을 제대로 교육하는 게 불가능하다고 생각해서 다양한 단원이 연계된 사고를 학생들이 지속적으로 반복하고 훈련할 수 있어야지 제대로 제 생각에 맞는 목적이 달성된다고 생각을 했습니다. 여러 단원들 간의 연결고리를 찾는 연습이 잘 되고 평가가 잘 돼야 된다고 생각했기 때문에 커넥션을 선택한 것 같습니다.
Basically, you consider connection between and within, right? Within connection, between connection, both of them important, right? 내용 내, 내용 간, 둘 다 중요하겠죠. 근데 이제 내용 간, 그죠?
네, 내용 간을
focus. What about group 3? Why did you select reasoning and proof?
저희는 수학교에서 강조되어야 되는 게 뭘까 이야기하다가 논리적으로 추론해보고 또 어떤 명제 증명해 학생들 스스로 증명을 해보고 하는 그런 과정이 중요하다고 이야기했고요. 다른 주제들보다는 리스닝 앤 프루프를 선택하는 게
What about group 4? Representation.
수학이라는 것 자체가 그냥 아이디어만 존재하는 게 아니라 이걸 표현을 하고 이걸로 습득하는 게 되게 중요한데, 학생들한테 이렇게 표현하는 방식이라든지 어떤 수학적 아이디어를 표현하는 방법, 사고적 방식을 알려주는 게 되게 중요하다고 생각해서 이 주제를 선택했습니다.
What about the group 5 connection?
많은 시험, 수능 같은 거 이런 데서도 어떤 개념과 개념 사이 연결 관계가 많이 나와서 그런 식으로 이제 개념 개념을 중요시 여기면 원래 있던 개념까지 좀 더 열심히 할 수 있는 그런 식으로 생각을 했습니다.
Okay. Group 6, problem solving.
프로블럼 서빙을 사실 선택한 이유는 저희가 쓸 게 많아서 사실은 선택을 했고요. 조사하다 보면 보면서 이렇게 드는 생각은 이제 NCTL의 기준이 되게 좀 모호하더라고요. 그거를 이제 이런 식으로 어떤 식으로 그 해석을 하느냐에 따라서 프로블럼 서빙의 그 스펙트럼도 되게 넓은 것 같고 뭐 사실 선택한 이유는 솔직하게 말씀드리면 쓸 게 많아서 분석하면은 잘 나올 것 같아서 하면서 든 생각은 그 기준에 맞춰서 그 교과서 문제를 분석하다 보니까 교과서 문제가 좀 그러니까 교과서는 개념은 잘 썼는데 문제가 많이 수준이 낮더라고요. 뭐 그런 그 신문 기사도 보긴 했는데 충족시키는 문제를
I think your group learned a lot, right, from the analyzing the first miscellaneous item. I hope, but that's really good point, which which I wanna emphasize by using the first miscellaneous item. Anyway, you realize important thing, I think. So, what about group 8, representation? Representation 8, group 8. 그룹 A씨 윤서? representation 아니에요? Yeah, that's a good point too. 그룹 9.
저희는 로그 선택해서 했었는데 이제 로그 같은 경우 다른 수학도 마찬가지지만 이제 로그는 지수와의 관계에서 이제 표현의 서로의 차이, 변환시키는 관계 있고 또 지수로 문제를 내지만 로그로 변환시켜야 풀 수 있는 문제들이나 이제 그런 문제 속에서 해석하는 부분들이 중요하다고
That's a good point as well, because they selected a logarithm, right? They focused on representation, but I think that's important perspective. Depending on the content, you need to carefully look at what kind of process should be emphasized. What about group 10?
할 수 있다는 그 부분에 제가 좀 더 가치를 두기 때문에
So one of the important thing I think I want to emphasize. Think about any mathematical process can be interwoven. Do you understand what is interwoven, right? Do you know in Korean 새끼줄, right? There are 5 lines. How to make a 새끼줄? You need to intertwine, right? All 5 together. So probably the interwoven process can be appropriate in terms of understanding the 5 process. Anyway, so you need to think about that perspective. So anyway, based on this 10 category, I'm going to analyze. I'm going to connect each other. Okay. So I'm going to analyze 4 different process in NCTM standards, and then. From Thursday, on Thursday I'm going to explain conceptual framework, but next week you are going to investigate your homework assignment together, okay? I'm going to show you example, and then we can have discussion time, and then you can debate each other. Probably each group need to defend their responses if others probably attack you. Okay? Anyway, so that's all for today. See you on Thursday.